meeting of the Troy Planning Commission. Copies of the agenda for tonight's meeting are available at the entrance to the room. Additionally, agendas and minutes of prior meetings are available on the city's website. The meeting will be conducted in accordance with the agenda as presented or amended by the Planning Commission. The roles and responsibilities of the Planning Commission are outlined on the reverse side of tonight's agenda. State law establishes planning commissions. The commission is comprised of 9 members, all of whom have volunteered to serve. Members are appointed by the mayor and confirmed by City Council. The other individuals at the table tonight are representatives of the city's planning department, the city's attorney's office, and the city's planning consultant, Carlisle Wortman and Associates. If you wish to address the Planning Commission, please come forward when recognized and provide your name and address on the sign-in sheet. Please begin your remarks by stating your name for the benefit of the commissioners. All remarks are to be addressed to the Planning Commission, not to anyone else in the room. At this time, I ask that all cell phones, Blackberries, PDAs, or any other devices that might disrupt this meeting please either be placed in silent mode or turned off. And for items that are not public hearings, I will provide an opportunity for public comment. Kathy, the roll call? Brent, the roll call?
I have the honor this evening.
Very good.
Mr. Redmonds.
Here.
Mr. Hudson.
Here.
Mr. Kempen.
Here.
Mr. Krent.
Here.
Mr. Sanzika.
Here.
Mr. Shepke.
Here.
Mr. Schultz.
Here.
Mr. Stratt.
Here.
Mr. Tagle.
Here. All right, item number 2, approval of the agenda.
So
Mr. Sanzika?
Move.
Second by Mr. Edmonds.
Mr. Hudson.
Here. Yes.
Mr. Kempen.
Yes.
Mr. Krent.
Yes.
Mr. Sanzika.
Yes.
Mr. Shepke.
Yes.
Mr. Schultz.
Yes.
Mr. Stratt.
Yes.
Mr. Tagle.
Yes.
Mr. Edmonds.
Yes.
Item number 3, approval of the minutes from our September 24th, 2013 meeting. Questions, comments, or can I have a motion?
I'll move to approve.
Mr. Krent?
I'll second.
Mr. Kempen seconds.
Mr. Kempen.
Yes.
Mr. Krent.
Yes.
Mr. Sanzika.
Yes.
Mr. Shepke.
Yes.
Mr. Schultz. Mr. Stratt.
Yes.
Mr. Tagle.
Yes.
Mr. Edmonds.
Yes.
Mr. Hudson.
Yes.
All right, item number 4. This is for public comments for items that are not on the current agenda. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to address the Planning Commission for items that are not on the agenda tonight? All right, seeing no one, we'll go to the first postponed item. Item number 5, it's a conditional rezoning application, file number CR 009, proposed Troy Marriott Hotels, west side of Stevenson Highway, north of 14 mile 333 Stevenson Highway, section 35 from O Office District to OM Office Mixed Use District. Mr. Carlisle?
Yes, good evening. The application in front of you tonight is the conditional rezoning, special use, and a site plan approval for 2 hotels located at 333 Stevenson Highway. This has been reviewed by the Planning Commission at least 2 prior meetings, and the issues that were discussed at those meetings include site arrangement and impact upon adjacent properties, landscaping, lighting, the inclusion of a wall or sound barrier, the inclusion of loading zones, public access or vehicular access, stormwater management, and parking. Since the last Planning Commission review, the applicant has made changes to their site plan. I was not going to go over detail about the application, more answer questions the Planning Commission or the public should have them, but I do want to highlight the changes to the site plan since the last review by the Planning Commission. The first change is that they were able to tuck the pool for the Town Place Suites underneath the first floor of the building. This has moved the rear setback of the Town Place Inn to 159 feet for the first floor and 197 feet for the second and fourth floor. In addition, the setback for the southern hotel remains the same. It's approximately 160-something feet from the rear property line. They've also added a second row of landscaping or trees along the rear yard. So in total, they're now showing 46 12 to 15 foot high white spruce, as well as 46 12 to 15 feet tall sugar maples. The applicant has agreed to replace the existing wall that runs along the rear property and replace with an 8-foot high sound wall. We have asked the applicant to provide details of that sound wall, which they should be providing at tonight's meeting. The applicant has removed the loading zone that was located in the rear of the parking lot. This was in part to increase the amount of landscaping on the site and provide more buffer. In addition, the applicant has amended the elevations for the Fairfield Inn by including an all masonry first floor. The last significant change to the site plan was the applicant was able to move their access point to the southern point of the site. This was done in coordination with the engineering department due to concerns about the crossover on Stevenson Highway and the associated light. The access point and circulation has been reviewed by the engineering department as well as engineering consultant, and they agree that the access and circulation is sufficient as proposed. We did review the plans under the conditional rezoning standards that were outlined in section 16.04. These talk about protection of public safety, health, and welfare, consistency with the master plan, consistency with, in accordance with the zoning ordinance, public services and facilities that can accommodate the development, as well as compatibility to adjacent properties. We find that these conditions have been met and the standards have been met. In addition, the application has been reviewed under special use standards outlined in 9.03. Again, these deal with many of the same standards that our conditional rezoning degrees speaks to, and we do find the application has met these standards as well. So in summary, due to the increase in the rear yard setback, the additional landscaping provided by the applicant, the 8-foot high sound wall, the increase in material, the change in quality material use, we do find the applicant has met all the required standards. At this point, we do recommend that the Planning Commission recommend approval to the City Council.
Thank you, Mr. Carlisle. Any questions? Mr. Schultz?
Did I understand you to say, Ben, that they're putting masonry on the entire ground floor of the Fairfield Inn?
That was the discussion that I had with the applicant.
Because none of the documents that we have indicate that at all.
Right, they are still working with Marriott in terms of what the actual design of that is going to be and what material will be selected, but they are going
Yeah,
to.
but it doesn't even say masonry, it says ephes on all the drawings that we have.
I had a discussion with the applicant on this, and they are going to provide elevation that show masonry. They haven't come to the conclusion yet with Marriott what they're actually going to be allowed to do with the masonry material itself.
Any other questions for Mr. Carlisle? Is petitioner here tonight? Would you like to step forward? Would you like to add anything to the presentation?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. My name is Victor Soroki. We are the architects for the proposed hotels. Along with me is our civil engineer, Giffords Webster. Andy Wakeland is representing them. And, of course, A&M Hospitality, the owner, Akram Namu. I think, in general, the planning consultant has done a good job in giving an overview. We did work to address all of the comments. I think one of the biggest moves we made was to work with Marriott in tucking the pool under the Town Place suites, which allowed us to increase the width of the green belt in the rear adjacent to the residential. And in doing so, we've placed 2 contiguous rows of trees. One row closer to the residence is a continuous row of spruce trees, and those are white spruce, and there's actually 46 of those. We specified them to be 12 to 15 feet. We're going to work towards getting it as high to the 15 feet as we can. And then in front of that, on the side of the hotel, we have 46 columnar sugar maples, also 12 to 15 foot in specification. So we think that's done a very good job giving you both combination of deciduous and evergreen. Obviously, you'll have even more coverage in the summer, but during the winter, you'll have all of that evergreen coverage as well. And when we eliminated the loading zones, because we really don't need them with a limited service hotel, we increased the size of those islands at the rear property line to, again, place more trees and more landscaping. Per engineering's comments, we shifted the southernmost drive closer to the property line so it eliminates the conflicts that were discussed at engineering, so we're happy to do that. We believe we've got a good proposal. We believe we've tried to mitigate all of the concerns of the residents. With regards to the masonry on the first floor of the Fairfield Inn and Suites, we are working through the details of the masonry specifications with Marriott. We will commit to making the entire first floor masonry. I believe the elevation submitted called out masonry. It didn't show the detailed change, but it does call out masonry, and we're here to stipulate today that we will do that, and are very comfortable to do that. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions. We hope that you'll support this proposal. We know we've still got to go to the council as well as submit for final site plan approval. But we believe we've met the spirit and intent of the ordinance, and we hope you'll approve this proposal this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Soroki? All right, if you'd like to have a seat.
Thank you.
Can I ask
Oh,
one question?
yeah, go ahead,
Sure.
Mr. Schultz.
And I just want to make sure I'm not misspeaking myself here. On your proposed elevations, which perhaps it does say masonry, but I can't see it, and it's still drawn as EFS. There, on the west facade, there is an alternative sign location. I see no reason why Fairfield Inn needs a sign, a crown sign on the west residential side of this building. There is not one on the town place, but there is an alternate sign location for branding, and I think that would be a bit overkill to have a sign so that the people that live behind, I think the people that live behind it will know exactly what this building is.
I agree. Those are, Mr. Schultz, those are obviously prototype drawings that we inherit to some extent from Marriott, and I would agree with that comment.
Anything else?
And we will submit to staff the proposal for the 8-foot-tall new screen wall. It will be a precast wall. It's a very attractive wall. It has a ledge stone effect to it, and it's on individual piers, so it'll do minimal impact to foundations or any plantings that are on the neighbor side. So it can all be handled from our side as well. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, this still is open. The public hearing is still open, but I'd like to make a couple of comments. First of all, keep in mind, we are a recommending body. City Council has the final determination on this project. Secondly, this will be the third meeting that we've had, public hearing. If you want to come forward, I would ask you to keep your comments brief, keep them on point, and address the comments with regard to the changes that have been made. We've recorded and we've heard all of your other comments from previous meetings, so we'd like to focus on what changes have been made. So if there's anyone in the audience who would like to come forward, please do so. State your name and sign in.
Good evening. My name is Cynthia Wilshire. I don't live in the subdivision, but I have an elderly aunt and uncle that do, and my daughter lives 3 houses from where the proposed is going to be. I would like you to consider that when the new zoning map was done, that those working on it took into consideration all the surrounding area, including several other hotels already in the area, not including the new Holiday Inn. A large subdivision of homes abutting this property and the existing businesses also in that area when they designated that an office district. If they felt it could be used properly for another use, I'm sure they would have zoned it differently. Just because someone wants a conditional zoning does not mean they're entitled to have you 9 men change it over the very numerous reasonable reasons put forward by this large homeowners group that want the office district to remain as is. They don't want it compromised. This is what is best for the Troy citizens, not a group of 9 people deciding that with a lot more landscaping, this is going to be any more palatable to those that are living in the area. I would like you to recommend that this zoning, rezoning, not go forth. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sally Wilshire. I live right down the street from where this is being proposed to be rezoned. I have a couple concerns again. First of all, I want to know if you can verify the number of employees they said that they had. The last meeting, I thought they said they only had 6 employees. They were only going to have 6 employees. Well, we did our research and we called Marriott, and I know there was only 6 parking spots for employees, and Marriott has a variety of different amount of employees. At full, these are supposed to be 2 hotels, about 89 to 90 rooms each, so that's 180 rooms. We called several of them, and the minimum for like 117 rooms, they have a minimum of 4 people and 10 employees. So how is 6 parking spots going to accommodate that? At peak, at one time, for 120 rooms, this is just during the day, this doesn't consider shift change or any other things, 13 people. So where are these employees going to park? That's one concern. So, and if there's only 6 employees for 2 hotels, I can't imagine it's going to be some 5-star hotel going in behind our house. I know it's not the Plaza or anything. My other question is, how much of a tax increase are you guys going to make on this property when it's going to consider all the houses in the neighborhood? I'm pretty sure our value of our property is going to go down. So are you guys going to make up for this hotel moving in there? You're going to make up on the taxes with our property value increase. There's already a lot of houses going up for sale in the neighborhood, and we do have Clausen residents right next to us, and I've talked to a few just because I exercise around the neighborhood, and some people have been concerned about that, and they have no say because we're in Troy. But there are a lot of houses up for sale in that neighborhood now, and it's just a concern. I don't think, you guys are putting up these hotels all over. There's new hotels going at Big Beaver and I-75, so why do we need 2 more hotels? As far as their sugar maples are concerned, that might be added yard work for our residents too. I don't think that this rezoning is necessary due to, as I said in the past, the occupancy rates, but not only that, they keep changing. This is the 3rd time we've come to this. So if it was just the perfect plan for rezoning, I'd rather have a medical office behind me, doctor's office, a university, a college, anything but a hotel. And another question I have, are they going to have a big light up sign on the south side of the building? Because if it is, it's going to affect, and it's going to shine right in my house, and I'm going to have a little bit of a problem with that. I just urge you guys to not rezone. I just don't feel it's necessary. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Mary Jo Austin. I live at 242 Redwood. I don't really have anything new to say. I just want to go on record that I have the same objections that I've had at the last 2 meetings. And one other point, no place in Troy that backs up to residential has a 4-story hotel. No place.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Nick Penchoff, 302 Redwood. I can appreciate the fact that putting up all these trees and trying to block the hotels, I can appreciate that you guys are planning for that to try to help us as the residents. But still, the fact remains is it's just a 4-story hotel right in my backyard that I do not want. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Kay Vavruska, and I live at 278 Redwood, and I've lived there for 54 years. And I'm totally against having hotels behind me, and I'm right at the end of this project, so come in 30 feet. And I have a 6-foot fence, and I'm going to have a 8-foot fence in the middle of my yard. And then I was concerned, because you were talking about sewage and that, a pipe, the last time or the time before, and it would be ending in the middle of my yard, and where all that water going to go? I don't understand that. But anyway, I go on record for saying I'm totally against this. And it seems like our rights have been taken away from us.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Suzanne Simonelli at 254 Redwood. One of the questions I haven't heard addressed yet, and if it has been, I apologize, but is we've been told from DEQ that there are wetlands back there. Have there been permits applied for? Because they're getting back with us on this information, but we've been told through Lansing that there is wetlands back there. So has this been addressed or not?
Mr. Carlisle, have you heard anything?
No, I've been out to the site a few times, and I have not seen any evidence of wetlands. I don't believe there is any wetlands. But
So you haven't dealt with the DEQ? You haven't dealt with Sue St. Patty, or Luke Gordon wouldn't, or Golden, excuse me, wouldn't handle that, but Sue St. Patty or Keto, and that you haven't talked to out of Lansing? Because there's wetlands back there. Yes. And I'm not talking about the part that's fenced in. And one of the other things in Troy was phone calls used to be called. And as a Troy resident, we were told that Michigan Bell, there was no tax base there. And from what we've been told now is that Michigan Bell has been paying the taxes there. But City of Troy never followed through on any of the things like keeping up the property and that. And that was one of the things. And also, Sally had brought up about the parking spaces. When I was here at one of the meetings, Marriott, through their corporate headquarters, they are not in line with the amount of the employees that was represented. So I want to know if you've contacted Marriott Corporation to make sure that these numbers that we're getting are accurate, because what Marriott's telling us is not what we're hearing here for parking spots. Because how many parking spots do the employees get between the two hotels?
ordinance requires 6 parking spots.
6 during the day? So Marriott Corporation themselves have said there is no way during peak with those 2 hotels that those parking spots, it won't work. So if it's based on 6 parking spots, I'm sorry. Those are actual facts from Marriott Corporation. So I don't know what you're going to do with those 6 spots unless they're going to be real wide, or you guys are going to bus in the employees or something. But, you know, I don't think we're being told that. I don't know if it's just thought it would get by us because maybe from 16 Mile Road to 14 Mile Road we're not as smart or something. But 6 parking spots aren't going to do it. And again, why at 14 Mile Road do we get hotels backed up to our houses with families and seniors, young children, and nowhere else where, I don't even know if you guys are all Troy residents, but not one of you would want this.
Ma'am, we are all Troy residents, and I would like you to stay on.
Okay, that's great. I just wanted to make sure, but I'd like to know, one, there are wetlands back there that's been verified from Lansing.
Ma'am, Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
I got the aerial up there.
The wetland
Can you show me
view-
where the wetlands are up there?
Sir, I don't know. Lansing told me. That is not, you know what? I don't, that came from Lansing themselves, from their department, and they said you could go, are you on the wetland viewer?
Okay, thank you.
Is that what the program you're on is wetland viewer?
That's just an aerial photograph.
Lansing said if you go on to the wetland viewer, you would be able to see those are wetlands. And they said another thing is, if you see cattails, that's almost a sure sign just to start. But they verified there were wetlands back there, along with the drainage area. That's besides, but there's at least 2 small wetlands, and that's from Lansing. But I'm assuming you already knew that, if Lansing knew that, right?
We don't, that'll be verified by engineering prior to final site plan approval if this goes forward.
And you're going to verify the parking situation and call Marriott Corporation to verify these facts? Somebody would verify with Marriott?
Mr. Carlisle, how many parking spaces, have they designated 6 employee parking with signs that no one else can park there, or
No,
that employees couldn't park somewhere else?
No, the ordinance treats, they don't designate between employee parking and normal guest parking.
Okay.
So on the site, there's a total of 186 spaces. That's the minimum requirement by the ordinance based on their numbers provided for in terms of employees. That nice 186 spaces is based on basically 100% occupancy of the rooms at all times. So based on their numbers, their occupancy is not 100%, so we don't feel that parking is going to be a problem at this site. There is room to put, if the Planning Commission is concerned, there's room to put additional parking in the rear of the site. That's where the location of the trees are going to be. And so there is some trade-off about increased landscaping versus what we don't feel is a parking problem at the site.
So if I understand you correctly, 6 parking spots is going to be enough for employees for the 2 hotels?
Ma'am?
No, I'm asking.
I'm going to try to answer your question.
Okay, thank you.
Typically, cleaning staff come in during the day when the residents are not there. Typically, there's more than enough parking spaces for the number of employees they use to clean the hotels and get them refreshed. That's typically how it's done.
Okay, the numbers are a lot higher for Marriott Corporation than what's been said.
Anyone else like to speak on this issue?
Good evening, gentlemen. I'm Mike Davey. I live at 325 Redwood Drive, and I'm opposed to the new hotels going in. You've probably heard it before, but it seems like it's going to be a very large eyesore for everybody on that street. When you come in, I like the photograph from the aerial position compared to the plan. When we heard the plans coming in, they said they were going to move that hotel as far forward as they could. But if you look at it, very similar to what it is now as far as the rows of parking. So if you wanted to come into the subdivision, look at it, you can see our 3-story office building there now. To add another 4th story to it and have it lit up like most hotels are, it's going to be an even larger eyesore. And the biggest contention would probably be the office hours. Everybody that moved into Redwood knew that that was an industrial drive when they moved in. But all the noise and commotion that the trucks and stuff have coming and going there are done by dinner time or 7 o'clock at night, and it's very quiet. I'm just worried about all the noise and commotion that you're going to get and all the well-lit area that's going to be kind of detrimental to the charm of Redwood. On our street, it's very nice looking. We've got 2 rows of trees. It's mature neighborhood. The trees are good 50 feet tall, and they turn beautiful colors, and it's just going to look a little too urban to have, hotel lights coming into that street and lighting it up. So the noise, the lights, an unknown factor on who we're going to have staying at the hotel. So I'm just worried about guys coming in there and needing to go running or whatever and coming through the neighborhood not knowing who or what they're doing. So that's my objection. Thanks.
Thank you. Did you sign in, sir? Yeah, please do so. Anyone else in the audience like to speak to this? All right, I'm going to close the public hearing, bring it back to the table for discussion. Mr. Stratt.
In answer to the employees, I just want to make sure, I feel very confident staff has done an excellent job. Marriott has several different levels of hotels and motels. And I don't know, this is not the one that's on Big Beaver. So that the portion that I'm sure staff has come up with is correct. So I feel very confident with that. I just wanted to make sure that everyone understood that this is not the Marriott hotel that's on Big Beaver.
Mr. Schultz.
I also want to reemphasize that we have worked, first of all, this petitioner has been extremely cooperative with requests, and we have worked to make sure that the light posts in the parking lot are lower than they would normally be, that there are light fixtures that don't spill light, and that there will be no lights on the building above the first floor. So I really don't believe, in my heart of hearts, I do not believe that light pollution is going to be a problem. I've been to the building site 4 times and down Redwood 4 times. I drove down Redwood today. There are 3 homes for sale, one of them adjacent to this property, the other 2 at the far north end. And so far as wetlands, I don't know, but there is a drainage ditch on the property, and I know the drainage ditch behind my condominiums is viewed by the state as a wetland, though it is in fact an agricultural drain. So if you look at the aerial photograph, if there are wetlands there, there's been a wetlands violation for decades. So that's all I have to say.
All right, thank you. Mr. Krantz.
Yeah, I always like to address the residents' concerns, and one lady came up and expressed that there is a drainage pipe in the middle of her backyard. I just want a clarification from our consultant or our director that we're not putting any pipes on anybody's property except this property under review.
That's correct.
That's what I thought. Okay, so there's not going to be a drainage pipe in the middle of your backyard, ma'am. Okay.
All set? Anyone else? Yes, Mr. Kemp.
Yeah, I think that you guys have done a great job of making accommodations for the residents, and the residents have done a great job in bringing forth concerns so that they can adjust to them. One of the key things was the lighting, and they did submit a lighting plan. It's available at our packet on the website here, and it does show that, very low, almost unmeasurable light levels at the lot lines. So they're, with an 8-foot wall, there should be no light pollution. I agree with that comment as well. And I just think that they've done enough right here, and also given the current zoning of the surrounding area, it does seem compatible. I know the residents that are adjacent won't like it, but I think for the city as a whole, it's probably the right thing to do. We seem to have an overabundance of commercial space right now, and that's why this building has been sitting idle for some time. So I think it's the right thing to do.
Thank you.
Can I make?
Yes, Mr.
Can I put the petitioner on the spot for just a moment? We do have one property at the north end, one residential property at the north end of your property whose lot straddles this piece of property and the piece of property to the north. Would you be willing to consider, I'm not asking you to commit, but would you be willing to consider if that resident desired to have the 8-foot screen wall put to her north property line on her property, to do that for her so that she doesn't have a 6-foot wood fence and then an 8-foot concrete privacy fence splitting her backyard?
Yes, we would. I'm just trying to understand which property you're talking about. You're talking about the property on the north end?
The northwest corner of your property.
Where about half of it, where the garage is backs up to our property?
Correct.
And then beyond that, so I see, you're saying place the wall on that owner's property, so we're not on someone else's property.
On their property to the north edge of their property line, if they choose to do that.
I'm sure we could do that. It's just an extension of the wall. It would be on their property. If they would agree to it, we would be happy to do that.
If they desire it. I don't
Right.
know that they would.
Okay. Yes, we would.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments? Mr. Edmonds?
Well, I agree with all the other planning commissioners' comments this evening. I think this developer has bent over backwards to try to address the concerns. I'll say this again, as I said before. When you buy in a subdivision and you buy on the extremities of that subdivision, you have no control over what will go in next door to you. And that's the reason whenever I bought in a subdivision, I always bought on the interior because I didn't want to be on the exterior. So this property, this is like someone has said, this office building has remained vacant for many years now. There is no revenue to the city of Troy. Surely, people, you understand that we will have revenue from these two hotels. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, if there's no other, let's go.
Do you have a comment?
I sure do. I've looked long and hard at this, and the developer has bent over backwards to try to shield and protect the residents' property and property values. There could be a lot worse things with a lot more noise pollution and a lot more lighting and a lot more detrimental to their neighborhood. I really feel with no restaurant facilities and amenities or offerings in this hotel that would create a drinking or some other kind of problem where it'd be noise, bolsters, noise and carrying on and a potential problem with rowdy people. I really feel it, having stayed in these facilities myself, when I've traveled to see relatives, these are very quiet facilities, and I really cannot see any reason with the more I look at it, and with the double line of trees, the extra loading vegetation where they're going to put the loading area and the 8-foot wall. There's just so many ways this developer has bent over backwards for the residential neighborhood, and I'm going to be in favor of this plan.
Mr. Schultz, did you have a comment?
No, I have a resolution.
All right, just want to let everyone know that there's a new resolution's been put in front of you on paper tonight. Go ahead.
Resolved that the Planning Commission hereby recommends to City Council that the O2OM conditional rezoning request, which incorporates preliminary site plan approval and special use approval, as per Section 16.04 of the Troy City Zoning Ordinance, located on the west side of Stevenson Highway, north of 14 Mile, 333 Stevenson Highway, and Section 35, being approximately 4.5 acres in size, be granted subject to the following conditions. Place light pole locations on the site plan. Number 2, confirm that there is no building lighting above the first floor on the rear and side elevations, and note such on the photometric plan. Add screen/noise wall per details to the plan, and revise elevations to include Fairfield Inn first floor masonry detail as part of the final site plan submittal.
Mr. Stratt, are you seconding?
Second. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry. I forgot I was at the helm tonight. Mr. Krent.
Yes.
Mr. Sanzika.
Yes.
Mr. Shepke.
Yes.
Mr. Schultz.
Yes.
Mr. Stratt.
Yes.
Mr. Tagle.
Yes.
Mr. Edmonds.
Yes.
Mr. Hudson.
Yes.
Mr. Kempen.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for all coming tonight. Good luck with your project.
Brent? If I may, do we have any idea how long before this might be on a city, does city council have to advertise this?
Yes.
So it'll be sometime?
Everyone within 300 feet will get notice, and if anyone wants to email the planning department, call us, check the website, the agendas, whatever we can do to make sure that you're aware of the meeting, we will.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, let's move on to the next item. It's a preliminary site plan review. Item number 6, preliminary site condominium plan review, proposed Belclair Estates, 15 units / lots, east of Rochester, north of Waddles, south side of Lamb, section 14, currently zoned R1C, one family residential district. Mr. Carlisle?
Yes, the Planning Commission should be familiar with this site. A few months ago, the applicant came in and received approval for a 9-unit site condominium project. Since that time, the applicant has acquired additional property and has extended the proposed site condominium. What they've essentially done is there are the backside of 3 parcels that front on Lamb. They have purchased that section and split it off and then added it to the existing property that fronts on Lamb Road. So they're asking for a 15-unit site condominium project. They're basically asking for 6 additional units from what was approved from the 9. The plan layout has not changed. It still ends in a cul-de-sac with a stormwater retention facility located in the southeast corner. The applicant has applied the lot size averaging and has met all the area width and setback requirements. The one discrepancy I will note in our report was I had misread the plans and thought that the road frontage with 1600 was actually just one side of the road. In discussion with the applicant, it's actually both sides of the road. So the 34 trees that have been planted, the 34 trees are what's required to be planted as part of landscaping frontage. In discussion with the applicant, we've actually have not come to a conclusion about where those 34 trees are located on the site. So that needs to be worked out, but the 34 trees...
Excuse me, Ben. Could you just ask them to step down because we're hearing their conversation in here. It's a little distracting. Thank you. I'm sorry.
So the applicant is required to put 34 trees on the new proposed road. I'm working with the applicant in terms of what the number actually is, because the number up there, I don't count 34. So we're working those numbers out. But with that said, we do recommend approval of the revised application from you.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Carlisle? Petitioner like to step forward? Becoming quite a regular thing here.
What's that?
It's becoming quite a regular appearance.
You see me in a couple more weeks, too. Any questions?
Anything you want to add to the presentation?
No, I think Ben did a great job.
Okay. All right, thank you. Well, bring it back to the table. Discussion?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Sanzica.
Was there a notice, is the notice required to the residents at Finkston Road regarding this?
I don't believe this is a public hearing and requires a notice, no.
No.
It's just a site plan approval.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
One quick thought.
Mr. Cran?
I just want to clarify with our consultant, Ben Carlisle, so that the resolution as printed, is that adequate, especially regarding those 34 additional trees?
I don't have the resolution. I don't have the resolution in front of me. No, that should be amended to state something to the fact that the applicant should work with staff to determine the location of the 34 required trees on site, something of that nature.
And I'd like to move the resolution.
1 second. Did you have a comment, Mr. Schultz?
Are we sure that 34 is the right number?
Yes.
Or do we just want the resolution to say trees along Belclair Court as per ordinance?
That would be more flexible and easier to actually administer. So I would take Mr. Schultz's
All right. Mr. Krant?
Resolved that preliminary site plan condominium approval pursuant to Article 8 and Section 10.02 of the zoning ordinance as requested for Belle Claire Estates site condominium, 15 units/lots east of Rochester, north of Waddle, Section 14, currently zoned R-1C, one family residential district, be granted subject to the following: that the trees along Belle Claire meet our ordinance and provides seed mix for detention facility.
Second.
Second by Mr. Schultz.
Mr. Sanzika?
Yes.
Mr. Shepke?
Yes.
Mr. Schultz?
Yes.
Mr. Stratt?
Yes.
Mr. Tagle?
Yes.
Mr. Edmonds?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Mr. Kempen?
Yes.
Mr. Krant?
Yes.
Thank you very much. All right, item number 7, preliminary site condominium plan review. The proposed Brookview site condominium, 9 units/lots, north of Square Lake Road, west of DeQuinder, 6308 Evanswood, Section 1, currently zoned R1D, one family residential district. Mr. Carlisle?
Yes, thank you. This is another site condominium project in front of the Planning Commission. The applicant is requesting a 9-unit site condominium project on Evanswood Road. The condominium will be accessed off a new 60-foot wide public road, which is accessed off Evanswood. The site condo project was previously approved by the Planning Commission. However, since that approval has since expired and the applicant is coming back for reapproval. The site has not changed in what was previously approved by the Planning Commission. The site plan is a conventional layout. We do note that the installation of the public road does make 6322 Evanswood a corner lot. 6322 is located in the northwest corner of the site. However, it should note that the installation of the public road does not create any nonconformities for 6322. It does make what was once a side yard now a front yard, so they have some additional setback requirements if they want to build and develop that site in the future. That being said, also the layout has been so designed that if 6322 were ever to be developed, it would have a similar layout and it can actually front on the newly created road that's being proposed. The applicant is applying a minimum lot average area requirement, and so all the lots do comply with area, bulk density, and setback requirements. The only other issue of note is the applicant is requesting a sidewalk waiver for the portion of the public road that does front along the northern property line adjacent to 6322. If that is granted, they have proposed trees in the right-of-way. We do note that those trees are not permitted in the right-of-way, so they will have to work with staff in terms of what trees will be allowed in that location. The application does meet all site condominium requirements based on Section 10.02. As such, we do recommend Planning Commission approval.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Carlisle? Does the petitioner like to step forward? Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Planning Commissioners. So my name is Fazal Khan. I'm the engineer for the project. I'm representing the owner here. Other than that sidewalk waiver, everything else is, I think that we really like that sidewalk waiver so we can screen that corner house. If you don't need that sidewalk, we can put appropriate trees there to screen that up more. And it's a given. I don't know if this body is going to give that variance or how do I?
This would actually have to go in front of the ZBA, would it not?
Traffic Committee.
Traffic.
Oh, traffic, okay.
So is this something that we really can't act on this tonight until that determination's been made?
No, they show a sidewalk.
We show the sidewalk. If we don't get the variance, we'll put the sidewalk in. We don't think that sidewalk is needed. That's why we asked for it. So.
Okay. Mr. Schultz.
Question for staff. They get the sidewalk variance, then we still have the problem of them not being allowed to plant trees in a right-of-way? Is that correct?
They would have to work with staff to determine if it's appropriate and what species are going to work.
And we have a landscape architect, and I think she will work with Mr. Carlisle too.
I've worked with the landscape architect to get it to where it's been. The issue is that the city has strict standards on where they allow landscaping in the right-of-way, and unfortunately what's proposed does not comply with that requirement. And so we would have to work with the applicant in terms of what the city staff would allow in the right-of-way if the sidewalk waiver was granted.
I mean, we won't have a problem putting the sidewalk, but we thought it was a better idea not to put that because we already have sidewalk on the other side. Why do we need a sidewalk which is not going nowhere?
Mr. Shipke.
As far as I know, you could get a waiver on that, but that would not be a permanent fix for the situation that you're presenting before us tonight. So I would be in favor of the sidewalk. Very honest with you.
It's fine with me. If the commission thinks that I should have the sidewalk, I won't have a problem putting that in.
I guess the way I would, Mr.
Yes, Mr.
Mayor,
Yes.
is the petitioner's before you with an application that shows a sidewalk. Like any petitioner, they can take this approval and they can seek a waiver from the traffic committee. I mean, Mr. Maniaci could do that with his development if he so chose. So what we're talking about, what's on the table this evening is the site plan with the sidewalk.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for the petitioner? All right, thank you. This is not a public hearing, but if there's anyone in the audience who would like to speak to this item, please step forward. No, we're talking about... All right, seeing no one coming up, let's bring it back to the table and discussion or motion. Yes, Mr. Schultz.
Resolved preliminary site condominium approval pursuant to Article 8 and Section 10.02 of the zoning ordinance as requested by Brookview Site Condominium, 9 units/lots north of Square Lake, west of DeQuinder, 6308 Evanswood, Section 1, currently zoned R1D, one family residential district, be granted subject to the following. 1, all correct zoning information on the site plan sheet, or correct all zoning information on the site plan sheet, excuse me. 2, include tree preservation details on the site plan sheet. 3, engineering and fire approval to approve the turnaround as part of the final site plan review. 4, amend the site plan to show the turnaround. And 5, if a sidewalk waiver is granted, the applicant shall work with city staff to identify a satisfactory landscaping treatment in the area of the waived sidewalk.
Support. Support by Mr. Edmonds.
Mr. Shepke.
Yes.
Mr. Schultz.
Yes.
Mr. Stratt.
Yes.
Mr. Tagle.
Yes.
Mr. Edmonds.
Yes.
Mr. Hudson.
Yes.
Mr. Kempen.
Yes.
Mr. Krent.
Yes.
Mr. Sanzika.
Yes.
All right, very good. Good luck.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Stratt.
just would like to make a comment. Those of you that are not familiar with Mr. Khan, he served on a planning commission for several years as well. So he's familiar with the routine here, and welcome back. I haven't seen you in a long time, but it's nice to see you back.
All right, moving on to other business, item number 8. Now, this is for public comments for items that are on the current agenda. So, sir, if you wanted to come up and speak to an item that was on the agenda.
Thank you, Chairman Tagle. I have some handouts. Can I give these to you?
Sure. Mr. Savinon will pass them along.
Anyone know what the score is?
If it's okay, I'll sign in while.
Okay.
Who knows what the score is? No one cares.
All right, sir.
Good evening. Let me introduce myself. My name is Daniel Trotta, and I live on 1182 Lamb Drive, and I'm a 27-year resident of Troy. Lived here since I've gotten married. My kids have all gone to Troy schools, and hopefully God willing, I'll live here a lot longer, another 27 years. I wanted to thank you for your time this evening. I wanted to go over one item that I saw with the proposed Belle Claire condominium project that's coming up, and I thought probably the easiest thing for me to do is kind of walk through some slides and show you one item that I saw in the overall site plan. And I have reviewed the site plan. I have reviewed the report from Carlisle Wortman and Associates. It looks like everything is passed and has been so far in code. And I don't mind telling you I'm a little nervous. I've never really come up and spoke before a board like this, but I feel it's important to do so as I've been in Troy so long. I love Troy. Plan to be here a whole lot longer. So the first picture that you have on page 1 is kind of they spoke about the properties that have been developed, and my property is just east of where that development will end. My 3 neighbors went ahead and sold their 3 lots for development, and I'm a pro-developer. I think development is good. I think it's good for the city. But what I wanted to point out in terms of looking at the land here is that you can see it's pretty flat overall. There's not a lot of hills. In fact, there's not even a lot of trees on those 4 parcels. And my parcel is right where the little A is. And I've got this little garage at the top that has my antique cars, and I built that with my dad 20 years ago. So, but in any event, you can see it's pretty flat. And what I wanted to address was the flooding that property has in our backyards. Those properties, since we've moved in there, have had extensive flooding because it is so flat. And it's really not, I don't know as it's really an issue until now. So if you go to page 2, what I've done on the topographical survey provided in the site plan, preliminary site plan, is just looking at it this way, you'll see that pretty much through that whole range of land, we're at about 662 feet above sea level if you look at all the pieces. And if you look up towards the top where my barn is, and I actually built that up a bit before I built it, but even where our existing residents are, we're at about 663 or 664 feet above sea level. If you would kindly turn to page 3. In looking at the proposed development, I see that, and I'm pleased that the developer added a retention pond in the back, but as I looked and studied the layout here in terms of how high the properties are going to be and how high the land's going to be, and I can understand why they would raise it, because this is low-lying land. There's points that are at 663 above sea level, 664, almost to 665. The developer has added in, if you look at the green, some drainage sewers here, systems from both the north and south side. But what I'm concerned about is with this being a floodland, if you think about water and water going over all 4 of these lots, now going to one of the lots, because now I'm going to be the lowest of the whole, backyard. I know in the spring and the summer months, or the spring and the thaw, actually in the spring and when things are thawing, it gets very, very moist back there. It's the ground, the stuff, the ice melts or whatever. So even across my lot line where you see the kind of the blue square there, that is all at about 662 feet. I'm still 662, where the development on the side is going to be 663, 664, 665. And the neighbors on the side of me, they've got, a green, they've got a drain in the back of their yard. That's going to be put in, and the neighbors on the south side of me have the same thing. I'm just concerned that there's going to be a lot of water that comes over onto my property, and I'm wondering if, number one, the detention pond is as low as it could be, just to make sure we get as much water in there as possible. But 2, is there any way to run some kind of extra catch basin or something on the west side of my lot line so I don't have a water problem? And I would think, too, this developer, just doing my own due diligence, seems to be extremely good. He seems very well known, cares about the community. I think even for the people adjacent to where I live, when a new house would come in, they don't want a pond there. And it really is pond and standing water for quite some time. And, you know, that brings bugs and insects, and it could even be a safety hazard if kids are around. So, and then just kind of a final thought. If you go to the last page, I used to do cement many years ago, and I think what really hit me when I was looking at the numbers just to see how things would work, I think it's for every 10 feet, you go down an inch to make sure the water drains off. So, you know, if you go 100 feet, you're going to go down a foot on a driveway to make sure the water runs off. This really, if you take some of the high points on the property, this really goes down about 3 feet and about 80 feet, the width of the lots. So, again, I'm just concerned about the water. I'm concerned about the water on that property coming into, rather than being spread over my lot once the development goes in.
Well, thank you very much for coming in and making your presentation, sharing your concerns. Really, not to minimize your concerns, but legally the developer has to retain all the water that falls on their property within their property. Now, we say that, and sometimes that doesn't necessarily happen. However, really you need to have a conversation with engineering, and you know, and again, I don't want to speak for Mondrian, but you know, they are a good developer. They do a lot of work. I think they would be willing to, you know, listen to your concerns. But I think the next step for you would be to make an appointment with the engineering department. Brent, how closely did engineering review this plan before it came to us?
They look at the preliminary grading plan. They basically look, it's not a full-blown engineering design. That's the next step. Thankfully, well, Mr. Maniaci from Mondrian's here. Again, he's a good developer. He's got a good engineer. The next step for them is going to be to engineer it. He's heard your concerns. We can provide this to, actually, I would suggest you contact the engineering department and give them a copy of this. Again, the property cannot have negative impacts on surrounding property, so it's got to be appropriately designed. They're aware of that, and our engineering department's aware of that.
Okay. May I make one last comment?
Sure, absolutely.
I just wanted to thank, I'm not sure, I've never met her, this Kathy Zarnecki, and now I met Brent, who's been...
Kathy's sitting right there.
Nice to meet you. Who've been very helpful to help me pull this information together and get anything I needed and answer. Again, this is all new to me. Helped me with the questions that I had, so I thought you might appreciate that. And thanks to all of you for your time, because I know it's donated as well, and nothing more invaluable than time.
Would you like this back?
If you're not going to use them, yes.
Sorry, I folded it. But...
That's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Mr. Tagle, may I say something?
Certainly may.
Trottier, for a person who has never spoken in public before and approached us with a little trepidation, you got an A+. You did a great job.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Strand.
I may make a comment. You brought up a concern that I think you should also bring up, and that is who is going to maintain the actual retention pond. So I think that you might want to ask that question as well. You're not listening to me, but that's okay. Did you hear what I said?
No, you didn't.
No. Okay. I said that you brought up a good point as to who is going to maintain the retention pond, and is it going to be filled, et cetera? Are there going to be mosquitoes, et cetera? So you got a good concern there. So I think that you didn't talk to deaf ears. Okay, we listened to you. And good job, by the way.
Yeah, good job.
All right, thank you.
I think Mr. Schultz has something
Oh, I'm
else.
sorry. No? Last item on our agenda tonight are the Planning Commission comments.
Anybody else want to speak?
What's that?
Does anybody else from the public want to speak?
Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to come forward? Oh, sure.
Gentlemen,
Thanks again. My name is Jeff Denhart. I'm at 1256 Lamb, down the street from Mr. Trotta. And again, I'm all for the improvements being made. This is a good project. Been in Troy 14 years. Mr. Trotta did all the numbers, so I'm not going to talk about that, and I'll be brief. But just to keep him honest, to let you know, in the springtime, in addition to the multitudes of the Canadian geese that we have walking around in our open spots and the deer, but there's actually ducks that will be swimming in these water areas. So there's a lot of water. So I just want to make sure when we say it's wet, it does get very wet in the spring when everything's melting, and we can't cut the grass back there sometimes for a month. And then when that water does dry up eventually in the summer, it's dead, so it takes a while to come back. So just to kind of as an extra bonus to know when we say it's damp, it's pretty moist there. So thanks.
There's not many of you left. Is there anyone else who would like to come? Okay. All right. Planning Commission comments. Mr. Motzny, let's start with you tonight.
No comments, thank you.
Director?
I'd just like to announce the Planning Commission that there's been a joint Planning Commission City Council meeting scheduled for Tuesday, November 26th at 6 p.m. in the council boardroom. We have a special study meeting at 7 p.m., so we're going to meet there at 6 o'clock. We'll give you more information. We've got over a month to prepare for this, but put it on your calendars.
That was the 26th?
26th, Tuesday the 26th at 6 p.m. in the council boardroom. And the intent of the purpose is discussing the following topics. I really don't want to get into the topics. I'm just making you aware of what the topics are. 1, City of Troy Master Plan amendments. 2, infill development, including residential. 3, Big Beaver Road development, not meeting increased density. 4, sober living facilities. And 5, maximum building height in GB General Business District. Again, I don't want to touch off an hour-long conversation on these topics. It's for informational purposes.
Thank you. Mr. Hudson?
No comments in particular, but in response to Mr. Severance announcement of a joint meeting. I think that before that meeting occurs, this commission ought to spend a few moments talking about those topics so that if we speak with some study in back of our comments and opinions.
I think one of the things to keep in mind, we're doing this in a 60-minute time frame, so it's maybe going to be more of us hearing what questions or thoughts or concerns there may be and then having some time to respond to it. But I don't disagree with you. I think it's a good idea to prepare for the meeting. Thank you. Mr. Krant.
I just want to make a quick comment. Some of the planning commissioners and planning staff attended the Michigan Planning Conference, and I must say it's always a learning experience, but I focused on the walkability, and there was a lot of great information given to us about walkability in cities and the importance of it and the demographic changes we're having and why it's even more important to have walkability. And the only thing I wanted to convey is I would like to see a little more study, maybe jointly with the Road Commission of Oakland County, focusing on Big Beaver so that we can have more walkability on Big Beaver.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Kempen.
Well, I didn't go to the conference, but I've been going to night school, and some of the same instructors that put together your packet for the conference have been teaching me about some of those things, and I agree 100%. We need to do more, and even in some cases in Troy, I think we need to do more looking at sidewalk continuity as well. You know, we've got lots of patchwork sidewalks that end in swamps or, old developments, front yards, that sort of thing. So that's a challenge for walkability. And also other connector ways. Maybe we don't want cars going through, but we could definitely put pathways through to help that out as well.
Okay, Mr. Stratt. Mr. Schultz.
Based on the announcement of the joint meeting, I don't know how the agenda items were arrived at, but usually when there is a joint meeting, the parties involved determine the agenda, so it evidently is a command performance for the Planning Commission, not a joint meeting. is my take, because we've not discussed anything that would be on the agenda for a joint meeting.
Thank you. Mr. Shepke.
Yes, I have a couple of things. The development over in Evanswood, I'm very familiar with the area. I had a Boy Scout troop, and we used to forage over in that area, and believe me, that land is either wet or at least boggy at all times. So the drainage problem can be a real problem over there. Another thing, when I was up at the Planning Commission meeting is up in Kalamazoo, I got a copy of the Kalamazoo lighting ordinance up there, and I thought it was real interesting, and I thought maybe engineering or whoever or in planning could look at that ordinance and see if there's anything that we can take from it to develop some kind of a lighting ordinance, especially with digital lighting in Troy, because I think that that's going to be a real problem if we want to create this walkability and this ambiance in the city of Troy, where people are the new millennium want to live here and work here. I think that we're going to have to try to create some more aesthetics, and some of this digital stuff is just going to have to be brought a little bit more under control. So I love Troy. I'm proud of Troy, and I think that we need to develop this city in a proper manner, and I think a good lighting ordinance would go a long way into accomplishing that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Edmonds, welcome. It's good to see you.
Thank you. I too was disappointed that I was not able to attend the state conference, but I did take advantage of watching the meeting following on cable, and I thought there was some very insightful and interesting discussions by the Planning Commission members, and I applaud you all. Thank you.
Mr. Sanzica?
Just a quick baseball update. It's 8-4, bottom of the 8th. They just scored, finally just got a double and scored 2 runs, so it's
Who's got the 8?
Yes.
Detroit's got the 8.
Okay.
Wow, it was final.
8-4. I don't have any comments. It was a good meeting tonight. I think the first item was handled very delicately, and I think it's a tough decision to make, but I think the developer did the best he could, and we worked very well with him. I think we did a good job on that site plan.
Thank you. Mr. Carlisle?
No comment.
Kathy, anything? All right, the meeting is adjourned.